Welcome to another introduction. My God.
From the top.
Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host Valerie, and sometime kitty co-hosts Miss Purrington and Mookie are safely back at home. We are recording from the Fallout Theater podcast studio. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. In addition to podcasts, I should have taken a breath there. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, show reviews, our advice column, our listing of festivals from across the country and the world, our FPIA contest page, and my articles for the Austin Chronicle and the BarbedWire.com about the Austin and Texas comedy scene. Our most popular feature is our events page for live comedy shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW, where 100% of the entries you see come from comics and producers. Click the Submit a Show button from the top of the homepage or events page to fill out the survey to get your show listed. It's free and easy. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share your show promo to our followers. We also offer paid promo pushes on Instagram. Speaking of events, come check out our my new passion project show. It's called Improv Vintage, where we ask our audience to bring a vintage item, have an interview, and then turn that interview and that item into improvised scenes. Want to support these resources we provide? You can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Click the Support CW icon on our homepage to see the ways that you can help us. Our podcast was launched in 2016 to bring you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. If you like this podcast, please rate and review us. Today, I always start this way, except that our guest is returning for his 5th time with us. What I always start with is his first interview with us in 2018 is one that I consider a masterclass edition as far as guests that comics could really benefit and learn from. His punk rock style of comedy and DIY work ethic shows no sign of abating. He's been touring with Eddie Pepitone since 2019 now. Wow, I remember when that news was first revealed off mic to me. This year, he released his masterpiece book, Doing Time, Comedians Talk Standup. And he is, of course, the producer extraordinaire of the long-running, I think, 10 years? This is 10?
This will be year 10.
10 year. And of the long-running 10 years Altercation Festival at Kick Butt Coffee, which is this year, the weekend of November 5th through 8th. Mm-hmm. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest for the 5th time, JT Habersaat.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome
hey, Val.
back.
It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You too.
5 times. I have to go back and revisit that very first one. I don't remember what we talked about, but
yeah.
I appreciate the words for that. That was, 5 years. Wow, that's half a decade. That's wild.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I feel like you and I are like, we are the old guard.
Oh, it's so funny you say that. I had a comedian friend of mine who's done Altercation before, a comic from the Colorado scene, and he was traveling for work, and he swung by. We had dinner, and he said, I was at the Velveeta Room over the weekend, and I was talking with some of the comics there, and I mentioned, they said, oh, you're in town, like, who do you know? He's like, oh, I know, JT, and I know Avery Moore, and I know Mike McRae. And they said, oh, old Austin.
Yep.
And I'm fine with that. I would totally take that as a grouping. But it made me cackle when he said that. I was like, yeah. Because for better or for worse, I mean, it's funny, too, because I realized today is 20 years for me in Austin. As of today.
Wow.
Today is the day that I arrived in Austin 20 years ago today.
Wow. Congratulations.
So, and so maybe it's time to go somewhere else. I don't know what the next year, will hold. I'm getting a little itchy. I'm fine with being considered old Austin.
Yeah.
And I don't take that in terms of like age or anything like that. I just mean it was a very different scene.
Yeah.
When I moved here, and it was a very different scene pre-pandemic. I think pre and post-pandemic are really the
yes.
line where things shifted.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, I certainly feel like, boy, that pre-COVID comedy scene was just
so strong, incredibly strong, incredibly diverse, cohesive. Incredibly creative, incredibly vibrant in a way that, I mean, you still had people here Matt Bearden, who's now doing a lot of radio, but Matt Bearden was the heartbeat, I think, of the Austin scene for a while. Martha Kelly was still here on and off before she went to LA and hit big with Baskets and all that sort of stuff, and the Marvel universe now.
Yeah.
And there was other comics that were doing, like Norm Wilkinson would do the Halloween shows, and so it was a very kind of, and there were plenty of people too. Like it was, not everyone got along, and I had moments of kind of brush up with even some of those people that I just mentioned once in a while, because we're all creatives and we're all trying to do things independently while still collectively wanting to support each other. And so there were times where, you'd brush against somebody, but then you'd talk it out or whatever. And there was never long-standing beef, but it felt more cohesive, whereas now I don't recognize the scene a lot. I get asked a lot on the road, oh, you're from Austin. Like, what's it like? Who are the comics you like? Where do you get up? And I always say I rarely get up in Austin because I don't want to. Because I tour enough that when I'm home, the last thing I really want to do is comedy. I want to take a breather. I want to do other things, or even just nothing. Even just be still and not on in any sort of way. I'll go see live music or something like that. And the most comedy that I'm around is when my friends come to town and I want to go support the show. If trying to think, Bobcat Goldthwait was in town up at Cap City about, I don't know, maybe 6-8 weeks ago. And so I'm like, oh, I'm home. He did a Wednesday show. I'm like, oh, it's not a weekend. I can go. I'm here. Awesome. So I went up and saw Bobcat. So that was fun. Or I know Chad Daniels was just in town 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was out of town, but my brother went and said hi and all that. So when my friends come through, I always try and support. I always try and buy that ticket and go. Yeah. Or if there's people like Brent Weinbach came through again on a Wednesday. I did a one-off at the Creek in the Cave, and I called up Mike Wiebe, and said, hey, are you home? He's like, yeah. I'm like, let's go see Brent Weinbach. He's like, yeah, let's do that. So we went. That was, it's fun to go watch comedy where I am not involved. I like that as a fan. But yeah, I don't know. Austin's, I can't really comment too much even on it because I'm not around it much. I know the spots. I know all the, I'm fully aware. But I feel a little arm's length with it all.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's big. It's spread out. I feel like it's not. I mean, there are breakouts. You're
talking performers, or
the performers. But I feel like everybody is hustling for the fame, and I get that before.
You nailed it. That to me is exactly right. I think. When people ask what's the biggest difference in comedy in general right now, it's that I think you have a lot, because there's so many comedians trying to air quotes make it or whatever that means for them. But I feel right now people are getting into comedy to chase fame and infamy more than they are for the love of stand-up.
Yeah.
And that is something that I don't think it will last. I think that's something they'll leapfrog onto whatever the next thing is eventually.
Right.
Because you see people that'll have this meteoric rise, and I've seen it too. I was watching Ralph Barbosa's special last night, the new one on Hulu, and I like Ralph a lot. I think Ralph's a good dude. I think Ralph loves stand-up. He did Altercation Fest a few years ago. I think he's a nice guy and is in comedy for right reasons, but he has had this meteoric rise because he found a fan base that really embraced him, and now he's selling out the Beacon Theater in New York. It's and good for him. I'm like, that is a success story I like to see. He's like 28, he's a young kid. Well, he's not a young kid. I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but but I'm looking down the barrel of 50. So like he's, to me, I'm like, good for him, and he's enjoying his success and having fun, but I don't think he's being an idiot. Like, I don't know. Like I just think he's I really like seeing that. And there's other comics that I look at. Avery Moore is one. Avery's getting ready to go to L.A. And I think that's a good move for her. There's other comics. Hannah Jones out of Denver is incredibly funny, and they're just very smart too with the, Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They just know how to do reels and just really expand their base and in that way.
Yeah.
Not in a viral video kind of way, but just record sets and let the material broaden their audience. But I think those comics, I can tell instantly watching someone on stage what they're in comedy for. And maybe that sounds arrogant, but I just can. I can tell pretty quickly, all right, you're in this because you want to be doing Madison Square Garden and famous and having overnight eyeballs. That I'm not going to say success, just eyeballs.
Yeah.
People aware of you. And that can translate to asses and seats, but it doesn't translate to good comedy. It doesn't translate to a lasting career. It doesn't translate to any of those things, I think. So, but ultimately, much like stand-up itself, it's all individualized. It's what do you want out of it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, stand-up is not a team sport. It is an individual sport, and you are fully allowed to carve whatever path you want to have and what's important to you. As far as for me, I very early on realized I don't want a manager and I don't want an agent. And some of the people I work with have both of those things. You know, people like Brian Posehn and Eddie have those type of things around them, and I will give my advice when asked, and I will help book when asked, but largely I stay hands off and I just go along for the ride. But I very early on realized I'm not going to lead with my ego, and I don't think those guys are. I think they're at a level where it's necessary. But I've been approached by managers and stuff like that. And conversely, I've been asked to book people as an agent, many comics, which I'm somewhat considering right now, but I don't know. But not to even go there. But I feel like some comics can have this thing of like, oh, it looks good on my website to have another contact, to have this agency and this name and this number, and that looks pro and good, and it does. Like if a club's looking you up and they see that, they're like, oh, it's a vetting, but you're giving somebody 10% of whatever percentage you work out or whatever the deal is to do that stuff that I'd rather handle myself. And so I realized early on the trade-off to me is I don't want the shine of, let me ask my manager, you know, because that can, you know, even right now talking like it sounds good and it's, oh, cool. Yeah. But I know plenty of people with managers and agents that they don't do anything for them. It hasn't opened any doors because agents and managers are people that want to be attached to something that's kind of already hitting. They don't want to build anything from the ground up.
They want that 10% of the biggest possible number.
Of course, and that's their job, so I understand that. We either have the world's largest mosquito or Bob Vila. But that's okay. So if you hear that noise, there's someone burrowing through the walls.
The rehearsal going crazy.
Anyhow, but I think you're completely correct in that there's a lot of people chasing fame right now. Yeah. And it's easy to see, especially in Austin, because there's certain shows that are, you know, filmed on YouTube or whatever, and the next day they instantly have hundreds of thousands of views, and you can get that overnight. Yeah. I'm not interested in that. I've always been of the, you know, when At Midnight was huge on Twitter, you'd see a lot of people chasing that. I think I participated in that too. I got retweeted a few times. I would have liked to have been on that show before, but then it went off the air. But I know they were aware of me, whatever. But at the point, having how many Twitter followers you had was a big deal. Like club bookers would look at that, and some of my friends would have hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers. However they got them, I'm not sure. But they didn't feel organic to me. Whereas I always had like around 5,000 or something like that. And to me, I was like, all right, there's 5,000 Twitter followers. Maybe that's not impressive to a booker or to even another comedian. But to me, I knew that those were organic followers who followed me for real. And so that means they're really going to actually try and come to a show. They're going to retweet me if it's something that matters to them or what. And, you know, not all of them, but a larger percentage. Whereas if you had 100,000 followers and 70% of them were just not necessarily bots, but just not engaged in any way, then what's the point? Then it's just a number. Yeah. You're not actually connecting with anyone. It's just a number. And that's how I view the fame thing. I'm like, if 100,000 people are viewing you on YouTube the night after you do a set on a popular show, rad, they all know you, but maybe a lot of those people hate your comedy. Maybe now you instantly have enemies. not enemies, but just people that think you suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
like,
they're
whereas
not
before,
shy about saying that.
completely.
Yeah.
Whereas before, they didn't know about you, or they were at worst indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
Now they might be saying, "Oh," and maybe they're commenting on anything you post now, saying, "God, give it up, quit, you suck." You know,
stick to comedy.
Yeah, stick to comedy, right? Exactly. So, I don't know. Now we have unhinged improvers singing yodeling in the background.
Oh my gosh.
No, that's okay. I just want people to know who's listening, like what's happening.
Yeah, I think the episode that is releasing today, when I was sound editing, I'm like, oh, that's a full-on improv rehearsal going on in the back.
Yeah, we're in an improv studio in the podcast studio, so if you hear unhinged yes-anding.
Yeah, and it's funny that some of the people that do make it on some of those, viral sensation shows on YouTube, they walk away and they're like, I did not like that. And yet they're stuck with the comments and whatever, and they realize, okay, well, I did that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready to move on.
Well, it's funny because I don't want to say names, but one of the, I did watch the Kill Tony live at Madison Square Garden Netflix thing because I had some people that Joe DeRosa's a friend of mine. I wanted to see what Joe did in that format. I've met Dave Attell, and I really respect Dave Attell a lot. I wanted to see that. And but one of the bucket pulls or whatever was a comic that was a bucket pull. It was no introduction aside from just here you go at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, holy cow!
And it didn't go well. The set did not go well. And that's a comic that I realized as I'm watching this, like, that's one of the first comics I said yes to for Altercation this year. It was someone who applied, who I thought was very funny, and so I was like, wow, I wonder what that means. Big picture wise, of like, I thought she was funny and she's coming, she'll be there. But she bombed at Madison Square Garden. And I don't say that, but in front of that audience.
Right.
So what does that say? Does that mean that many people think, like, is her comedy not good? Or is that just a completely different audience that just doesn't like that, what she was going for?
Yeah.
Neither one is wrong.
There's also, to me, the distinction of, like, I have drawn a line that I just don't enjoy comedy in very large venues.
Oh, no, because it's terrible.
I want to see somebody,
completely right. Well, you remember the Oddball Festival was going around?
Yeah.
The big thing with, like, each year they had it. I went to that one year when it was at the racetrack here.
Yeah.
And it was, who was on that? Louis C.K., Sarah Silverman, Hannibal Buress.
I'm sure Aziz was on it.
He was not on that
okay.
one. No, that Mark Maron was on it. I forget who else, but it was heavy hitters,
Yeah.
And I went and I watched in a way that I usually do with comedy, where I laugh, but I'm really kind of studying the craft and what they're doing, and it wasn't enjoyable. It was like, I was sitting in the back on a bleacher and just like, I felt very disengaged from it. Comedy shouldn't be on a big jumbotron screen. It's just not where it's at. Low ceilings, dark room. The end. And every venue that is iconic, you're talking about the Comedy Store, the OR Room, you're talking about the Cellar, any of these places, that's what they are.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bigger. I think the OR Room, the Comedy Store, I think seats maybe 200, but it's tight. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but it's tight and it's dark and it's, it's where comedy thrives. Low ceilings.
Right.
So, and I'm a guy who's very much perform anywhere. Like, I think the different venues make for good diversity and fun. Like, I don't want every room to be like that, but those are the best ones.
Yeah.
Unarguably, to me, they just are.
100%.
So I agree with you that big venue, I'm not interested in that. I think the last show that I went to that was large like that was, well, I know Jim Jeffries a little bit. We met at a party out in LA and kind of hit it off, and so, but he's always in, like, he's all over the world whenever I'm out there, and so I haven't seen Jim in probably a year, but he did Houston, and a venue that holds probably 5,000.
Wow.
But it was like a Bass concert hall. It wasn't like a stadium. It wasn't like an arena. It wasn't like something that Bill Burr would do now, or Dave Chappelle or something like that. But it was big enough that I was like, wow, this is a lot of people, and he was masterful. Like, I was like, wow, this is a really different skill set. Because Jim just killed it. And there was a moment where people, it was actually like 2 rows in front of me. They got into an argument because the lady was being loud, and they started yelling at each other like the crowd. And Jim stopped the show and addressed it and worked it out in front of 5,000 people. You know, I'm like, wow, like holy cow! Like, and the other thing I took away from that was like, wow, the headache never ends. Even when you're playing at this beautiful giant place, you still have to stop and address the idiots yelling at each other in the middle of the show. It never goes away.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. My goodness. I don't know which you want to pivot to first, the book or the festival.
I'm in your hands, so whatever you want to do.
Okay, let's talk about this book.
Sure.
Because a couple of years ago, the last time you did the podcast, you talked to me after mentioning that, hey, I've got this big project coming up. And
I think it's been 2 years since we did that one, yeah.
Yeah, and when I saw the book, there's a little, okay, not so little. We're just gonna, we're all friends now.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the book that if I had the time in the world, I would have loved to have written this book.
Yeah, I bet you could.
Get to talk to people at all levels and just talk shop in a way that is cohesive and trades on the knowledge that you have gained through your experience as a performer, as a festival producer, as a touring, road touring comic. So now that it's out, came out earlier this year.
July.
How do you feel about this book?
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
It's the thing that I feel, because I've released specials, I've released other books. This feels the most complete to me. It was really important to me to get it right. As a comedy fan, like I took the responsibility really heavily, because when I had the realization no one had done an oral history style book of stand-up, I couldn't believe that it hadn't been done. I thought surely I was gonna. Because I kept searching, and I was like, "There's got to be one. Like, there's no way." And there's one that there's an LA book that's an oversized like coffee table book that's like largely photographs of comics that live and thrive in LA. And Pepitone's in there, Kalkinane's in there, like some friends of mine are in there. And so they did a kind of oral history in that. The segment on each person was kind of an interview, but it wasn't this. It wasn't what I had in my mind as a true oral history book. Of stand-up. And I also didn't want it to be heavy on the history. I wanted it more on the life of the comic. Because I felt like history of stand-up had been covered pretty well. There's a lot of books. If you want to learn about Lenny Bruce and the 80s scene and all that, you can find 9 books right now at any bookstore and probably double that on Amazon or something. So I wanted to focus on things that I hadn't been covered, and also what spoke to me, which was from the 90s on. Which was because comedy kind of died in the 90s a bit in terms of the club boom went burst, and the alt scene started to percolate and come about. And I also, as a comedy fan, things like Kids in the Hall was on TV, and like a lot of stuff that felt subversive in an interesting artistic way. And so I wanted to start there and then go forward to now. Which was the narrative I had in my head as far as like, all right, it's going to be a journey from that to this and encompassing all that. But no, I'm happy with it. And it's a big book. It's 155,000 words.
Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah, good Lord is right. And it's meant to be, a lot of people say, man, I really like it, but I haven't been able to finish it yet because I pick it up and put it down and pick it up. I said, it's meant to be picked up and put down. I didn't want chapters because I talked to a few different publishers, and one of the first ones I talked to said, well, we'd really like to divide it into chapters where people want to just hear about hecklers and go to this section. Or if they want to hear about, I don't know, late night TV, they can go to this section. I said, I don't want to do that. That's segmenting the book in a way that doesn't feel like a narrative. And like, then I might as well, then it's just a plug-in book for me. It's not me trying, because the hardest thing for me was to have my voice through it without me being in it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like I wanted my voice to come through the questions I asked and through the curation of the book from, I wanted it to be one long conversation that flows and flows and flows and flows and flows. And you can hit, as the publisher said to me, they said, there's a couple headings here and there. They said, they're British, they're from London, Jawbone Press, where they said you can go get a spot of tea and then come back and return. I said, that's the most British perfect way to say exactly what I'm thinking. So it's meant to be paused sometimes. So you can think about what you're reading. And so I don't take that as any sort of negative criticism. People say it's taken me a long time to get through it. I don't think they're bored. I think it's a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of people. It's over, I think, 80 comics in it, which is a lot of, for me, I can look at them and go, I know exactly who that is. But some of these comics are at a level, they're all working class. They all do it for real. But people may not be familiar with them as they would a Patton Oswalt or Maria Bamford or a, Dana Gould, who are all in the book, who people go, oh, I know who that is. So there's a degree of, I think, reading and being like, who said that again? Oh, let me flip that. Oh, Kristen Leidy said that. Okay, I think she's the one from Green Bay who's also a union organizer. All right, I'm starting to get to know who this. Or, Mo Alexander said that. He's the guy from Memphis, right? Okay. So people start to connect the dots, I think, as they go. And then the best comments I've gotten were people who said, I read the book and I really enjoyed it. And then at the end, I was like, I miss my new friends. I wish I could go back to that world of like hearing more about all these people that I'm now introduced to, because you hear their voices in your head, if I've done my job right. So it was hardest is the wrong term, but it's the most laborious thing I've ever done. It was an insane amount of work because I had to do all the interviews, and then I had to transcribe all the interviews. And then I had to take from those interviews the blocks of conversation that I knew would be important and necessary. And then I had to break all of that down into 3 sections of the book, because the first section talks about childhood influences and that type of thing, what got you into comedy. The middle part of the book, the largest, is about doing the job and road stories and all the experiences, mental health, stuff like that. And the last part, which is the shortest, I think it's just like 100 pages, is things that heavyweights have learned, people who quit during COVID and haven't gone back to it, just all this sort of like, parting advice. So I want it to be like an airplane ride where you take off and you do the journey and then you land. And assembling all of that like a giant mixtape was so much work and took so much revision, because you're just, you're constantly plugging in and then reflowing and then this, and then another interview would pop at the last minute, and I'd be like, well, now I have to add this, and it totally changes the context of what this person said, So it was a lot of very intensive work.
And you're still on the road.
And I'm still on the road. Yeah, the road was, that's my, I would never call it a day job, but the road is my primary work. And so, so I was traveling, and when I get back, you have to do all the, household things and pay bills and just, pet the cat and whatever. And but I'd be glued to my computer, doing these in the downtime. Because the other thing with the book is, my other 2 that I put out, I self-published. I had some interest on my most Killing for a Living, which was my tour journal book I put out in 2018, I think. But not anything that I was like, this is worth doing. But this one I knew I needed a publisher for. I wanted it in stores. Yeah. And but I'm writing the whole book knowing I have to sell it when it's done. It's not like I had an advance that I was, it was all just unpaid labor, and which is fine. If your motivation for a book is to sell it and get rich, good for you. But I don't think that's going to be a very good book. And also Godspeed, because having brokered a few record label deals in my time, I've been on Stand Up Records, I've been on 800 Pound Gorilla, etc. Getting a book deal is the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, because that goes back to the not having an agent thing intentionally. You need representation in the book world to get, they won't even look at it.
Oh, wow.
Won't even look at it. So I had other channels of kind of approach where, because I'm adjacent to people that have those type of people, where they can make that introduction for me. Mishka Shabali was hugely influential in terms of getting me in some meetings with people. And I'm just a get up and go guy, so
Well, that's the thing that I'm most curious about, because you are so hardcore DIY.
I am.
That getting this through that publisher pipeline.
Yeah, it was really put in front of a bunch of people, and I had one big publisher in the States that has books in airports, and it was the editor is someone who I really respect. He's worked with a lot of comics that I've worked with and put out their books, and he's put out a lot of musicians' books. He was really interested, and we had a bunch of lunch meetings in LA and stuff like that, and it was going really well. And then one day his entire team got the axe, it was one of those, and he got re-pushed around to a different department and blah, 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 and it just went away overnight. after we've been talking for like 2 months. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, that was the place. This is the guy. He got it. He understood it. He's worked with people that I know and respect. That was the place. What am I going to do now? Shit. And so, and my immediate reaction was, screw it. I'll just put it on myself. Like, the hell with it. But I said, no. And I had some people tell me, no, just calm down for a little bit. Give yourself some time to think. I said, okay. And then I was like, what I did was, I started looking on my bookshelves because I'm an avid reader. And I said, which books look like what I want it to look like? Because it's important to me, the presentation. And there was a couple other places, but Jawbone Press had put out a book called The War is Never Over, which is a companion piece to a film of the same name, but it's an oral history of Lydia Lunch. And Lydia Lunch is a poet and feminist icon, musician, brilliant. And we had done a tour together about a year ago. We're doing some more dates this year in December. But her book was on the shelves. A Faith in the War book was on the shelves, and an oral history of this band Swans that I really admire were all on the shelves. And they were all Jawbone Press. And I said, this looks awesome. Like, these books are heavy. Because I didn't want a hardcover book either. I wanted like a trade paperback. Okay. But I'm like, but it has like a dust jacket, and it feels, the paper is really nice. Like, everything about it, I thought these look like books that would be on a real library, you know?
Yeah.
But they are also not imposing in that you can travel with it and maybe dog-ear it even if you need to. You know, I'm against that, for the record. Don't dog-ear a book ever, you monster. Get a bookmark for a quarter. But but you could. It could be. You could take it on the beach. You know, it's not bulky and massive. And so I just emailed Jawbone cold.
Oh my gosh.
In London. They're a London-based publisher. They've been around 20 plus years. I emailed them. I made a list of like 5. And I was like, these are people that I would like to work with. Whether they want to work with me or not, I have no idea. Whether they'll even read the email because I don't have representation, I have no idea. But I just emailed all of them. And out of the 5, 3 got back to me. The first 2 were US-based publishers. I admired some of the stuff they had done, but they all wanted changes that I thought kind of dumbed the book down. And I almost hesitate saying that, but they wanted changes that would make it more mass appeal in a way that I felt was kind of betraying what I wanted to do. And I said no. And they could not believe I said no, that I had the gall to approach them without representation. And then when they made an offer, me say, no, it's just not right. They couldn't believe it. The one lady was so mad, she just stopped responding to anything. She just cold. I could tell she was furious, which is their prerogative. But, and I said, well, maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot. But I said, I'd rather self-produce it than have it feel sellout-y to me. Like, you know, and it wasn't massive money.
It's your name on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's my name on it. And I'm a comic, and it's important to me to be right. Like, it needs to be as right as I can make it. And then Jawbone hit me back, this wonderful guy named Tom, and he said, well, he said, I really, really like the concept, and I love that you have the book done, because I waited until I was done to shop it.
Gosh.
Yeah. Right. I said I had the cover done, you know, like everything. Jeff, my buddy Jeff out of the Colorado scene, who's on tour right now with Rory Scovel. Jeff did the art cover for me. He's brilliant. And so I had everything set to go. It was set to go. We can print tomorrow, you know? And he said, the only thing is we only do music books. Like, we've never done anything but music. And he said, so I don't know if we could properly market it, because all of our marketing people we have tons of contacts, but it's all music magazines and it's all music, you know, reviewers and critics.
They didn't know who you are.
They didn't. And I said, well, here's an interesting springboard. I said, you put out a book by Lydia Lunch. I'm on tour with Lydia for 2 weeks, starting in the fall. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, I used to run this thing, the Altercation Punk Comedy Tour, and I'm kind of known as like the punk rock dude. And I've worked with The Sword and the Dwarves and Riverboat Gamblers and Off With Their Heads and all these bands. And so music magazines are very aware of me. I've opened for Henry Rollins. I've, you know, ran this music magazine for a long time. And also, you know, so any of those contacts, might be aware of me, but also I'm kind of a lunatic in that I know a lot of comedian journalists like yourself, like people that have outlets and stuff that will know me already. Mm-hmm. And that's not, that sounds braggadocious or something, but like, you know what I mean? Like people are kind of aware of me in a sense that I didn't think it'd be a problem to market it. And they said, oh, and then I guess they Googled me or whatever, and they got back and they said, you know what? You can only put out so many books about the Beatles. Let's do it. And I said, wow, cool. I said, well, send me the offer. And they sent me the offer, and the offer was very fair. And that was it. And so I said yes. And so I've been thrilled to be with Jawbone. I got a publicist with the deal, a woman named Wendy out of LA, and I met with her for lunch, and we hit it off, and she has been the best publicist I've ever worked with on either end of things. She's fantastic. So it's been nothing but great as far as the experience.
So it pays not to
freak out,
and just to hold to who you
are and to know your worth. And that knowing your worth isn't being greedy. That's not saying, I demand more money. And if you, maybe some people it is, and to me, it wasn't about the money. I wanted it to be fair, and what they offered me was fair. But I'm like, I said, I'm going to work as hard as I can any interview you set up, I'll do.
Yeah. And
they said, well, sometimes authors can get a little abrasive about things if it feels like it's kind of below them, like some of these and I said, take that out of your equation. I will do whatever you want me to do. I may not enjoy it. There's certainly interviews I've done that I've been like, this person has their own agenda or whatever, or just like, I didn't even know I literally had one guy. It's so weird. He held me on the phone for like an hour, and his mom used to work. No, yeah, he used to work with Bobcat Goldthwait's mom at like Sears or something in the 80s, and so he was around when Bobcat got on, set the Tonight Show on fire, and was on Police Academy and all that. And so he was like, why is Bobcat funny? I don't find him funny. He had this weird agenda, and he grilled me for 20 minutes about what Bobcat's really like and why is he popular. And I was like, well, okay.
I'm here to talk about my book.
Oh, whatever. And then he's like, all right, so you've worked with musicians too, and who have you worked with? And I said, well, I did shows with the Dead Boys and the Dwarves. And he goes, whoa, really? And I was like, yeah. He's like, wow, that must have been really intense. And I was like, I mean, they were nice to me. Like, the shows could be wild, but there was no problem. Why? He's like, well, I have to ask, like, what was Jim Morrison really like? I said, no, the Dwarves, not the Doors.
Oh my God.
He thought I was on tour with the Doors. I was like, dude, I was born in 1976. Jim Morrison died in like 71 or 72. I'm thinking to myself, you idiot. Like what? I was stunned by that. I don't know what to tell you, man. So there's certainly some press that I've done. I understand why certain comics roll their eyes when they do certain press. That being said, I will do whatever it takes to expand the press of this book.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I'm curious about some of the making of the sausage. Did you you wrote the whole thing before you went out to try to get a deal?
Yeah.
Did you have to then go through an edit process
after? So what I did was I sent it to Jawbone, and I said, read it, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I think before we brokered the deal, I said the book is done, but I was also very proprietarily protective of it. Because I've had lots of friends who live and work in Hollywood who have had ideas stolen in meetings for films or whatever. It just happens. And I was really worried because this oral history hadn't been done that someone was going to get the idea and go, holy cow, there's not one. Let's put one out over the weekend that's crappy and AI written. So I was worried about that, sincerely. And so I was real quiet with it. So I sent them, I think I sent them 50 pages from each section. So they got a gist of the whole. And then once we signed the deal, obviously I sent them the whole book. And I said, if there's anything that pops, let me know. And for the most part, they're like, we have no changes. The only thing they suggested, which I agreed to, and it's made it a better book, because I was anti-chapter, was to put in these placeholder headings, which kind of gives the reader a little bit of a heads up of what's to come. So one is like talking about depression and stuff like that, or the other is late night, or the whether or not social media is a positive or a negative, like all those types of things. And it kind of gives it gives you, the reader, a break to pause.
Sure.
And also it's like a little bit of a flashlight of, we're shifting gears now, but also it's not like hitting you over the head with it. It's not a chapter on read this for hecklers. I didn't want that. And I think it helped the book. I think it's a better book for it because they said, the center section is 300 pages and it's just, there's no break. It's just text. It's just interview. And it flows and it goes from topic to topic. But I said, that is a good point, and I will happily make that change and add those. And so I spent a weekend coming up with titles. I think there's, 30 to 40 different titles of subhead, breakpoints or whatever. And then I re-edited them in my brain because some felt a little off. And then I submitted a final list. And I said, these are the pages, and let me know. And they thought it was great, and that was that. So very little editorial. But also, I used to be an editor. Like one of my earlier jobs was I worked at a publishing house in New York that put out 5 weekly newspapers, the Woodstock Times and all these other things. And I was one of their editors. And so copy editor. And so I come from that. All these things. Yeah. And so you should never edit yourself completely. I would, listen to anything they had to say. And there was one or two maybe small rephrases or something, but largely very little changes.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's
But I'm not a perfectionist in terms of beating myself up once it's done. You have to call something done at a certain point, And there's certain people that I would have loved to have in the book that I kind of am adjacently know. David Cross and Jim Jeffries are the two that I reference a lot. I would have loved to have spoken to both of them, but it just didn't. There just wasn't scheduling that would work out. And I finally just said, well, the book's done. I just have to call it done. I can't wait around and belabor it because every time you add someone, it changes the entire flow of the book.
Right.
Because that conversation has to be peppered in throughout. So, but no, to your question, there was very little editorial I got back.
Do you see yourself doing a part 2?
No, this is meant to be also definitive for me as far as this, I think. I mean, never say never. Sure. But to me, this is the last thing I'll write about stand-up.
Huh, interesting.
I may do tour journals again down the road. I have no interest in that right now. But this to me is kind of my love letter to comedy, and it says everything that I wanted it to say, not in terms of having an agenda, but just in terms of it feels complete to me. And now I want to do other things. I have an idea for a screenplay, which is not comedic. I have an idea for short stories, like essays I want to do, which is not comedic and fiction leaning. I want to expand now writing wise, but I'll write more. I think I'll do more literary stuff for sure.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, I have ideas that I'd like to pursue.
You don't sit still.
I don't.
So we know there's going to be something new.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
And part of that is like there's. Again, I don't want to go too deep into it because I don't want to commit myself. But people. There's a lot of comics, people that are headliners at Moon Tower and stuff like that have asked me to book them, to be their representation for agent stuff. And I'm considering maybe doing that next year. I don't know, but I also am weighing that responsibility very, very heavily because these are my friends and peers, and mentoring into a business situation like that it changes your relationship for one way, for better or for worse. So I'm considering that. But like I said, I'm also very up in the air right now. My life is in a very new chapter kind of phase, and I don't know if I want to stay in Austin. I don't know. Next year's going to be a lot of shifting around for me. The festival will still be here, I think. Like I can still keep the Austin Comedy Fest, but I don't know. So I do always seem to have a lot of different things percolating, but I'm kind of in all right, this is out now. This is what I'm promoting. I want people to read it. And then next year, I'll worry about next year,
Yeah. Okay. Let's do my little intermission, even though we're, more than halfway in here. And then we're going to talk about the festival.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so I've got this card game. Where should we begin? Richard, our web guru, gave me this. And you're going to point to one of these 2 cards.
I like this a lot already. Okay.
And when you point to the one that you want, go ahead and point to one you want. I will read this one to you.
Okay.
after you read that one to me.
Oh, nice. And this is by Esther Perel,
Esther
which
Perel,
I'm a fan of. If you don't know,
world-famous psychiatrist.
I'm most proud of my family for.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Wow. Well, I've got my one kiddo who has, he's, man. I keep swearing I'm not going to cry every time somebody asks me one of these damn prompts.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, my son has gone through a lot. Child of divorce, losing his dad at age 12, and then putting up with me as the single mom. And he has shown so much resilience in doing that, and now he's off to college, and second year of his college life, and he's an incredible little human.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
as only having one child, that is my family.
Yeah. Well, huge credit to you, because I don't have kids. That's an incredible. That responsibility, hats off, because that's a lot.
And, he made it easy in many ways. I just feel like I got really lucky with
That's
him
awesome.
being relatively easy. I know there are some parents that go through
God.
really difficult child raising
Yeah.
experiences, and I just feel like
That's awesome.
I hit the lottery.
No, that's great. That's good.
Okay, JT, yours is, oh, good Lord.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
All right.
If I could choose the way I die, I'd pick, and I'm not lying, that is so somber.
That is hilarious.
Holy fuck. I don't know if I'm going to keep that.
No, please keep it. Keep it. Mishka or Pepitone would fall off their chair laughing, because we both say, man, how do you choose? There's so many great ways to die. Oh, man. All right, so there's two ways you can answer this. I will choose, though, the coward's way out, which is if I could choose the way to die, I would pick, and I'll say accomplished, which is different than what they want.
Yeah.
What they want is to say a stabbing or sitting by the beach when I'm 900 or. But I'm going to bypass that and say, if I could choose the way I die, I'd pick accomplished, which
Esther would be very proud of you.
I hope so. I'm a big fan of her. I think she's brilliant. That's what I would choose. Yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, and I think, you have many, many things you have accomplished, so.
Thanks. I feel this book feels like a big accomplishment, but I also, I'm kind of, I don't want to say directionless, but like I'm curious right now about what'll be next. Like I really don't know what it'll be, but I know there's more things I want to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into the 10th.
Also, Shark Attack.
What? Oh, in the background? Yeah.
Shark Attack would be the way I'd go. No.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I'm like hearing
totally
the
kidding.
noises.
No.
Like,
It's the way to die.
No. Yeah.
No.
Sharknado. All right, November 5th through 8th, and I know that for many years you would schedule this in October, then things got moved around, and you have fought valiantly with, competing events around town.
They're killing me, man. They're killing me. Meet some middle ground, other festivals. Jesus. Yeah, because it was originally I intentionally put it in the fall because in April was Moon Tower and it's South by Southwest and all these other things. I said I want separation. I don't want to appear there's some sort of competition. I don't want competition with comedy. I hate that.
Yeah.
And then after pandemic, suddenly Moon Tower moved and I was like, okay, cool. Thanks a lot, guys. Well, whatever. I guess I'll bump it from September to October. And then Austin City Limits became 2 weekends and F1. And then there's an election. There's like some endlessly moving things. And so this year, I'm like, it's all right, it's November. This is when it is. It's after Halloween. This is when it is. And then, I don't know, it was a month ago, I see not one, but 2 other Austin festivals, one which is long running, and is definitely aware of me, improv people that may be listening.
Yeah.
How dare you? Why would you do that? You've been on a different weekend forever. Why would you move to the same weekend? I wanted to, what are you going to shout at the sky and raise your fist? Because that's what I did. But I said, come on, man. And I know it's improv versus stand-up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That really irritated me because they definitely are aware of me and I'm definitely aware of them. And I think we get along fine. We're different crowds. But that's the weekend you had to pick.
Yeah.
After I'd already announced, fine. And then there's some other new one-day festival, which is further down south and is definitely producers. They feel very new to Austin. I don't think they're aware of me at all. But it's just, there's comics on that some of the headliners there's no crossover, I think, with my crowd. But some of the people on there, the lower tier, they're people who've performed at Altercation before and stuff. And comics that I like. Some of them are in the book. And so that was just like, just one more thing. It's hard enough as it is with the economy feeling weird and so much comedy happening in Austin. I was like, 2 other festivals? Comedy festivals. Not even just music festivals or whatever. Like, it's Austin. I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's a million things happening every weekend here in a million different places. And that's okay. It's part of the reason I came here. But I was like, fine. But whatever. Also, I'm like, it's already been announced. And maybe I'll pull from you guys. I don't know. Like, I don't want it to be adversarial. But also when I, if I'm the one who was walking down the street and got hit with the water balloon, not the other way around. So it'll be what it'll be. But all I can do now is promote it and, hope that people come out. And so far, I feel optimistic that the lineup this year, especially the year 10 thing, I have a lot of people that have been, performers that have done it every 2 to 3 years that are definitely coming in this year because they want to. It's like a big reunion this year. So I feel confident it'll be okay.
Yeah. Still the DIY badges, of course.
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
So who are some names? Who are some of the headliners that? Let's break it down into 2.
Sure.
Who are returning headliners you're excited about, and are there any new headliners?
Yes and yes.
That you're excited
yes and yes.
about?
So returning headliners, Mo Alexander's coming in. Mo is so funny.
Yeah.
I've known Mo forever. One of the only comic to perform and record at Sun Studios in Memphis. Mo has been on Comedy Central. I love Mo so much, and we've crisscrossed and done shows together when we can, but we're both out there doing it. So, when other working class headliners like that, you don't see each other a lot. So I'm really happy to have Mo coming back. Ben Roy is a returning headliner from Denver, from Those Who Can't, with Adam Caton Holland and Andrew Overdahl. Okay. Ben and I have spent many weeks on the road together in vans and with bands and did High Plains with Ben, and we're just good friends. And Ben is one of my favorite comics to watch. He's very animated. Like, we have similar styles, but we approach the stage very differently.
Okay.
He's way more animated than I am, but our sensibilities are very similar. We're both kind of storytellers. So I'm really stoked to have Ben come back. Ryan Anthony Rogers is a comic who was on last year for the first time out of New Orleans. He runs, I think it's called the LGBTQ LOL Festival.
Okay.
I apologize if I forgot any letters there. But very, very funny comic. Great energy. I thought he killed it last year. And he just signed a big management deal and all this other stuff. He's doing very well, and so I was stoked to have him come back. He's going to headline
I remember him.
Rising Stars.
Yeah.
If you saw, we had their Saturday last year for Kids in the Hall, Kevin and stuff.
Yeah.
He was on the All Headline. He hosted the All Headliner show early.
He's great.
Great, awesome energy. He just nailed it. So he's returning, but he's headlining this year. Jay Shanoin, who's one of my oldest pals, who's on Stand Up Records. Jay's new special for Stand Up Records comes out in 2 weeks. And it's one of the strongest specials I've seen all year. And there's been a lot of strong specials this year. I got a preview of it, and it's really good. And Jay and I go way back. We've worked together for years, mainly before I started working with Papatone and Posehn in the last couple of years. But Jay and I spent a lot of time on the road together. So those are all kind of returning favorites. I'm sure there's more. New people. Neil Hamburger is coming.
That's pretty impressive.
Which is, I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
I've wanted Neil well, Greg Turkington, but I wanted Neil Hamburger to perform at Altercation for years. I think it's a perfect fit. He's been on my list of people to get. Last year, I was like, all right, I got the Kids in the Hall stories, Kevin McDonough, that check.
Yeah.
I said, I want Neil Hamburger next year. I want Neil Hamburger. And Craig and I got to be pals through doing the book. He used to road manage bands like Mr. Bungle and Link Ray and all these people back in the day. And so we bonded on music things, and we really hit it off. And now we're pals. He's one of the nicest dudes ever. Great, great guy. So funny. When him and Tim Heidecker came through Austin, they did a 2-day Tim Fest thing over the summer. They asked me to be a part of that. And so I got to perform with them, do sketch stuff on stage. That was awesome. But he's got a tour on the East Coast, which ends in Maine. He's flying here to do just the Altercation Fest and then go home and go do Australia. So it's like literally he's coming just to do it. And he said, I don't think I'll be to Texas again for a very long time. So it's like a real, I'm so stoked for that. So the Neil Hamburger thing is really exciting to me. We have a secret headliner that's coming in Saturday, which 99% is who I want it to be. They're very busy with film things right now. And so if there's some schedule shifting, that may change. But as it is right now, it's a total comedy legend who I've known for a long time. And I'm really excited for people to see who that is. I think they're going to be really stoked.
You always have like this secret headliner, like secret surprise. And it always is like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't mess around with that.
Yeah.
I really, to me, it's like, because generally who I try to get is someone that really wants to do Altercation, but literally their publicists and their agents are like, it's financially, no way, no way. You're not going to make the money that you need to make, but they still want to do it. But it's also they don't want to burn Austin. I don't want to burn Austin as a market for anybody.
Yeah.
If it's somebody that can do the Paramount and make that money, I'm not going to be like, hey, burn your Austin for the year and come here and do. They want to, but they just. I totally understand that. But who do we have last year for? Well, some of the secret guests over the years have been Todd Glass. Beth Stelling was last year. Was one.
Right.
Beth swung in. God, who else? Ron Lynch. Just people that are really iconic. And so I'm like, if I'm going to dangle the surprise of a headliner, it's not going to be somebody that you can generally just be like, oh, cool. But, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want somebody to be like, holy shit. It's that person.
Yeah.
So this year, I think anybody that shows up, and I usually leak it a day before too. I try and dangle and leak it. But this year, I think there's 2 that are coming in this year for different shows that I think people are going to be like, whoa, nice.
Yeah.
Who else is new? I'm trying to think who's on. Kind of returning, but kind of new. Derek Sheen and Emmett Montgomery. Derek, I love. I've known Derek forever. They have a show called Friendship Dungeon, which is a Seattle long-running showcase, and it's really alt-leaning. It's like all sorts of different things. They'll have a juggler. They'll have there's all sorts of weird. Fun. They have comics doing coloring book contests, like all sorts of weird stuff.
So, they call that clowning in Austin.
Well, yeah, I'm not a fan of clowning. That's a whole nother thing. I was here. Yeah, I was behind the scenes at South by Southwest this year at the comedy thing, and there was a lot of that clowning stuff, which is really kind of broken out in LA right now. And anything that, even if it doesn't appeal to me, even if it kind of gives me hives when I read the description of it, I'm like, well, it's my job to be informed, so I'm going to go. If there's a special that someone I don't like, I don't feel compelled to watch it because I know it's not for me, but I'll watch at least one of theirs to know why I don't like it. Right? It's important to me to be informed.
Yeah.
And so I went to one of the clowning showcases, and I think I made it 12 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It just made me cringe. I I hate this. I don't like this. I don't like it. So there won't be much of that. That to me is just, there's a silliness to it that I don't like. And even just the word clowning, I think it's demeaning as a stand-up performer. But I'm a purist, and I fully admit that. I can be a little snobby. Eddie and I fully admit all the time we're a little snobby. We just are. I just like stand-up. I like someone with a mic and something to say, and the end. It's why I don't look down on crowd work. doesn't really impress me.
Yeah.
Like I could do that too. Like I want to know what you have to say.
Sure.
I don't want you to get up there and ask people what they do for a living. That's boring to me. So, so I'm excited to see what I get. I give those guys free reign to do whatever they want to do.
I haven't done a super extensive analysis of the names on the festival, but when I read through all of the names, the quick impression that I got, because I'm always interested in like the smaller print.
Sure, yeah.
It doesn't seem to lean super heavily into the Austin scene.
Nope.
And
I'll tell you why too, but go on.
Yeah, no. So I am curious if there is a why, or if I am just so ignorant of who's in Austin anymore that it's like, okay, well.
No, you're correct. I always have. There's always a couple Austinites in there. I'm trying to think right now who would be considered local. I don't know. It's 80 comics, so I don't know. The schedule's in the book. If you, the schedule drops this week. Okay. It hasn't been announced yet, but I brought you a copy of it. So. The reason I slowly, from doing the festival 10 years now, slowly had less and less Austin comics on there is that I found, well, what's the point of having Austin comics, right? I might be peers with them. I may know them. I may like them. But more importantly, they're local, so they can get the word out. They can tell people, blah, blah, blah. What I found was the opposite. The people out of town were the ones promoting it. The people in Austin who live here, who get up all the time, it's just another show to them.
Yeah,
it's just doing another spot. And some of them, people that haven't been asked back, dropped the ball. They ran late. Oh, my bus is late and I didn't get there on time. You're hosting the show. How dare you? Like, I don't care. I don't care what the excuse is if you've been booked for 6 months on this thing and you overslept. I'm sorry, I just don't care. And that's a deal breaker for me going forward.
Yeah.
There's also been certain comics that I've given a platform to who I've paid money. Comics that are very well known in Austin that have profiles that are big and have good social media and all that sort of stuff, who I like them as people, but they've done some stuff since then, actions that I don't like. Just things that I feel are shady, just things behind the scenes that, not cancelable, gross stuff. I would never book someone like that, but just things that feel, as a friend and a peer, I was like, I would never do that to you. And for you to kind of be okay with that in the other direction, all right, I get the message. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm not going to blast you online. But I have the memory of an elephant. I don't forget these things. And I very quietly take in that information and then proceed from there.
Right.
And so there's certain people that and I might like them personally, but I'm not having you back. Yeah. And that, I just feel no need to do that. And also, the Austin scene right now doesn't really represent what I want Altercation Fest to be. There's just not a lot of comics that people are interested in, roast battle and stuff like that. I don't want any of that. I'm not interested in that. No interest in it.
Yeah.
I open it up to applications every year. I would say 5% of the applications are from Austin comics.
Wow.
If they apply, I give them extra heavy weight. And some of them got in last year. There were some comics that I didn't know that were Austin comics. There's plenty of Austin comics I'm completely unfamiliar with that I liked and thought they were great and invited them to come. And they were great. They did great. But I didn't know them and I haven't seen them since. It's just how it was. Because I'm not really in the scene when I'm home.
Yeah,
why would I? But I like them and they did a great job. So, but I don't feel any sort of inclination as an Austinite to include Austin comics because they don't really bring much to the table as far as what I'm trying to do, which I hate to say. But that being said, on this 10-year fest, one of the people that have been there for every single year are the McEwens.
Yeah.
Avery Moore and Mike Wiebe. And I don't know if that'll be the same going forward because, Avery's going to LA.
She'll come back.
Maybe she'll come back. I'm sure she probably would. But, this is Avery extended her move to be able to be here for Altercation Fest, by like a week or two. And so they've been on every single year, and I will always have the McEwens back because it's become a thing now. People come in from out of other scenes and go, "What is this thing?" And then they see it, they're like, "Oh my God, you have to see the McEwens." They'll drag people to it, for the brunch. So, I feel like if there's any sort of Austin representation to be had, that's my responsibility. That's on me when I go out and perform elsewhere. So when I'm other places, I kind of feel like I'm an ambassador for Austin in some degree of whether that's saying, you read a lot about what Austin is right now, and there are other facets of it. There's other things that are happening besides just the big headline things.
Yeah.
Maybe that means I am old Austin. I don't know. But that's the only part of Austin I carry with me.
Yeah.
I feel no responsibility or obligation to have Austin represented on my festival because, and also shout out to people like Ariel Isaac Norman, because I also do little tests in that, okay, I didn't invite anyone from Austin to whatever to perform. But all right, so out of all that, who's going to show up and watch anyway as a comedy fan? You do.
Yeah.
Ariel does almost every year. And of course I'm going to let you guys in. If I see Ariel, of course I'm going to wave her in. But they show up not knowing. They're showing up willing to have that $30 or whatever to support and to be there. That says volumes to me. No one, I think, whoever applied and then didn't get in has shown up just to come and watch it and be a part of it and check it out. If they did, I would almost guarantee. And if you're listening and you do it, this is null and void. This is not happening now. You already blew it. But if they were to do that, I would probably give them a spot the following year. I remember that stuff.
Yeah.
So, to your question, nah.
Yeah. I think for the fan, I think it's, you could definitely feel like the party atmosphere of all these people who are from across the country coming together to this,
And people travel, the fans they travel in. It's not, I would say the fan base for Altercation Fest is 50% people who travel in. It's not just Austinites. I mean, there's a certain degree of Austinites for sure. But people travel. People book their flights and their vacations a year in advance to know that they can be there that weekend. People coming from California, we had people from Alaska one year come in, all over the place. And even as far, drivable, even just driving 4 hours from Fort Worth or driving from Oklahoma or driving from Houston or whatever. Like, people do it. And so I'm very thankful that people, because I recognize the time off from work that takes, the expense of getting a hotel or airfare or whatever. It's a lot, it adds up. It's a lot of, it's not just about supporting the festival and buying the pass. It's all the other stuff. It's a big deal. So I never take that for granted.
And the area around Kick Butt has changed so much over 10 years.
Sure, that too. It's a little less sketchy now. It used to be, I used to say, don't walk around. It's less sketchy now. There's still a degree of you need street smarts, but it's, that's the thing too. Kick Butt Cafe is such a fostering of the arts and so wonderful. Like Daniel, who's head bartender, Alyssa, who's his right-hand lady behind the bar. Thomas, the owner, is one of the best people. Like, they're really in it for the right reasons and just they get it. And I've had people try and draw me away from there. I've had money deals of people dangling money, say, take it down here. I said, no, I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. I mean, obviously, if I decided to do the festival in a different city, that would be a different conversation or something like that. But I don't think I would. I think even if I were to do something else, I don't know. I don't even want to go down that path. But like, I'm just very loyal to the people that kind of, that I can depend on. Yeah.
It's a great venue, great festival.
Yeah, it's a perfect setup. I think it's a perfect, ideal setup for what I want.
Yeah.
So why would I go anywhere else? I don't know.
Exactly. Is there anything else we haven't talked about that you want?
I don't know. I always feel bad. I always feel like I held you hostage. You always go along. You're always like, 45 minutes to an hour, and then I feel like it's like 2 Godfather films later that I'm like, all right. So, no, not really. I mean, I appreciate all that you do. I mean, it's been a long time that, whenever comics message me looking for extra stage time when they're in town for Altercation or whatever, say, go to Comedy Wham. That's the source. And you're not a purist in the way that I was describing Eddie and myself, but you're a purist in terms of you love comedy and it shows. And so thank you for all the things that you do, because people, I think it's real easy to just kind of not necessarily take it for granted, but be like, well, Comedy Wham will always be there. And like, I reckon it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, man. Yeah. It's, this is a Sunday right now. Like, you're taking up part of your Sunday to do what should have been 2 interviews, but some people have no respect for your time. And this sit down with me. So thanks for somebody ghosted you earlier. No, I appreciate all that you do and contribute, because that stuff matters. When I tour around so much, if I go to a city, I can tell if there's an infrastructure like a Comedy Wham of people that are really fostering and want shows to be good and want people to be in the know. And if there's not, you can tell. You can tell. Yeah. Fort Worth does not have this, having worked there all last weekend. So
yeah, but there is a certain club that uses our events page up there exclusively, and I think they are the only show, only venue.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the Houston. I mean, we even have it in Houston. Nobody submits to Houston.
Huh.
I think those pages need to die.
Interesting.
And just be the Austin page.
Yeah, but I mean, Austin's enough. That's enough to keep you busy.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Let's close this out.
Yeah. Thanks as always.
Yeah, that's a wrap on Comedy Wham Presents JT Habersaat Volume 5. JT.
One more thing I should mention is you can get the book.
Well,
are we going to do that? Okay,
perfect.
all right.
Yeah,
all
tell
right.
us where you can find you on social
would
media.
Drive here and kick me in the shins if I did all this and then forgot.
Promote the project.
Doingtimecomedy.com.
It feels so good in the
Thanks.
In the hand.
Yeah, the weight is like it's dense and it's doingtimecomedy.com is the website that branches off to the Jawbone and sign copies and all that sort of stuff. jtcomedy.com has all of my dates. I have shows upcoming with Eddie Pepitone and Brian Posehn and Lydia Lunch through the rest of the year. And then altercationcomedyfest.com has all of the passes, and daily tickets are going on sale this week, so they'll probably be up by the time you hear this. Altercationcomedyfest.com, and the night-by-night schedule and all that sort of stuff will be up this week. So
I made the mistake of starting to go through the book and how it's structured and looking at the names, and I'm like, God damn.
Who jumped out at you? I'm curious.
I saw Genevieve Rice. That was like the first name.
Yeah, Genevieve's great.
I see Jackie, of course.
Jackie Cation.
Mo. I just saw Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The funniest part
Christine Levine.
Yeah, the funniest part has been because it was Maggie May.
Amazing.
So many people in the book, and so long of a because I started doing interviews end of 2021 when COVID was still kind of around and schedules were still kind of locked down. That people go, oh, I vaguely remember doing this interview. What did I say? I can see the terror in their eyes.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, God, this is actually a book that's out now. What did I say? What is in that book? I see the apprehension going, oh, no. But I'm not. And I'm not someone who wants a TMZ kind of exploitive clicks. I'm not going for clickbaity. So there's no controversy in that book. So if you're listening to this and you're a comic who's in the book, rest easy. So you're not going to get canceled for anything. It's fine. And thank you for doing it. I'm sorry you forgot. As you talk about comics forgetting to have an interview with you today, when you reminded them, think about something they did 2 years ago, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
I guess. I'm like, I have the audio if you want to listen back to it, bud. But very funny.
Yep. All right. Well, we hope you've enjoyed learning about how JT continues to be a comedic genius and powerful force that you heard today just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham Presents JT Habersaat Volume 5. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you again.
Thank you, Val.
With Altercation.
Yeah. See you there.